Hi everybody and welcome to tutorial number 2. And as I ask, are you ready to be the queen of your health? So what we're going to have a look at in today's session is sugar. And as we go through the 10 weeks, we're looking at implementing small goals to give big wins and implementing a lifestyle change. So it's really looking at your lifestyle as 80% on track and 20% allowing yourself those treats. And remember that Easter, Christmas, all of those family occasions, we are allowed to have our treats. And when we allow ourselves and we've no restrictions, then that binge cycle stops. So just ask yourself the following questions. Do you intend to have just a couple of biscuits or a small slice of cake and you find yourself coming back for more? Can you eat a large amount of sweet or starchy foods even when you're not really hungry? And do you still feel hungry even after a big meal? Do you usually fancy something sweet after dinner? And do you find sweet foods the hardest to cut back on? And do you turn to sugar when you feel upset? And do you get those energy slumps in the mid-afternoon? So we've done our health and energy quiz, and if you've scored 16 or above, you're probably ticking most of these. But as the 10 weeks go on, then we'll start to see that those become erased. So really, we don't consider ourselves as addicted to sugar, but it is worth looking at what we do consume. And when I show you how to read the amount of sugar in foods, then you'll start to see how many teaspoons a day you're actually having. One of the things that sugar does, it actually causes inflammation in the system, and it actually affects the ability of the white blood cells to fend off viruses and bacteria. And if we look at it as well around the immune system, our immune systems can stay depressed for hours after consuming sugar, according to recent studies. And that's where you might find at Christmas time, when people overindulge, maybe Easter time, they overindulge, is when they're more susceptible to catching those viruses and bacteria. Now, this is the energy and blood sugar control, which you've already completed, and will complete again in a couple of weeks. Let's remind ourselves of that roller coaster, and where we want to become more balanced is when we're in that middle of the roller coaster. We're having protein at every meal, we're eating every 3 to 4 hours, and we're making sure that we're getting our good fats in, the right types of carbohydrates, and that's where the magic starts to happen. But what happens in the body when we eat sugar? So we've seen inflammation and the immune system starts to suppress, but we started to stabilize and then triggers cravings, which then lead to more cravings because you've gone up on the roller coaster, you've gone down. And this is where function that's probably won't cut it. You're on such a low, you need that quick fix of sugar. It leads to more snacking. Energy levels start to reduce and we start to gain weight. So what we want to do is we really want to cut that curve and the spike and make sure that we're on that green dotted line. We want to flatten the curve. So how can this help with your, those energy slumps that you're having during the mid-afternoon? How is sugar related to that? Is because sugar, that it leads, fast releases sugar into the system, which leads to low energy, chronic diseases, premature aging, weight gain, reduced immunity, and inflammation. And as we call this, it's low glycemic load we're following. So when you're balancing your blood sugars, it's low glycemic load. And just a reminder, when you eat carbohydrates, you digest it, it turns into glucose, it's absorbed into the blood to give you energy. Now, when we look at carbohydrates, We need to look for the whole grain, whole wheat, whole meal. Obviously, avoiding the white or refined foods. And there are different names for sugar, guys. Anything that ends in OSE is a sugar in your product. Sometimes there'll be 4 or 5 different types of sugar hidden. Syrup, honey, treacle, fruit juices, they're all full of added sugars. The reason that fruit juice is so high in sugar is that when something has been processed and pasteurized and heated, it will increase the sugar content in it. And when something says no added sugar, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's low in sugar. So the World Health Organization recommends that we have less than 5%, that's 6 teaspoons of sugar of our total intake per day. Now, let's have a look at some of those famous drinks and snacks and see where we're actually hitting way past the recommended daily sugar intake. Cocoa Pops, this is a 30-gram serving, so it's probably one of those small boxes you get in the multi-pack. There's 3 teaspoons of sugar in one of those, and most people will probably have 50 to 60-gram serving of Cocoa Pops. Where you can see there's natural sugar in porridge in your 40 grams, it's half a teaspoon of natural sugar. If people go out to the cinema, they can have up to 46 teaspoons of sugar. In shop bought sweet and sour sauces and other sauces, there could be 18 teaspoons of sugar. And then some people will have a coffee out and they might have some flavour in there and a sultana scone, and they're getting 9 teaspoons of sugar in one sitting. So really what we should be looking at is your black tea or coffee, maybe with a splash of milk. When you start to go up to your lattes, the milk is heated, so it's releasing extra sugars, and you can see you've got 4 teaspoons of sugar in that. A hot chocolate can have up to 9 teaspoons of sugar when you add in your marshmallows. And this is where things can go wrong when you go out for a coffee. You decide to have a muffin and you're getting 8 teaspoons of sugar versus a scone, 5 teaspoons of sugar. Now, this is the key. This is what I want you to take away from tonight's session. How do you actually know how much sugar is in what you're eating? Turn your packet around and go to carbohydrate. Under carbohydrate, it will have of rich sugars. Look at the serving size. So let's say we have 26.3 grams in this. Take the number 4. 4 grams of sugar equals 1 teaspoon. So 4 is your magic number. And you divide your 4 into 26. And that will go at least 6 teaspoons of sugar in that product. So take number 4, divide it into of rich sugars, and it'll tell us how many teaspoons of sugar is in what you're eating. So there's a little bit of homework over the next couple of days. So how do we escape it, right? It's everywhere. It's in everything. It's hidden. So let's have a little look. So we've done our little flattening of the curve. This is where we really need to get to. And when you start to look at the amount of sugar that you're having, that's when you come into that dotted line. You need to become a food detective. You need to start looking at all those processed food that come in packages. Anything with a package, if you turn it around and it's got ingredients that you don't understand, you're better off leaving it behind. There's a lot of additives, preservatives. If the shelf life is a long shelf life, they say, then short over life. You're just putting chemicals and stuff into your body. So just start to look where the sugar can be actually hiding in the foods that you're eating. Breakfast cereals, so many are high in sugars, which I've just shown you there. So obviously the chocolate cereals, also the honey nut. Why do you think people are addicted to these types of breakfast mueslis and granola, you need to look at the sugar content. Some of them are scary. Some of them have 10 teaspoons of sugar in one sitting. So when you're reading your labels, you can have sugar that's in disguise. So yes, we can see sugar here, but also corn syrup is a sugar. It's in there twice. And fructose, remember OSE is a sugar as well. There's different names for sugar. There's over 50. You can actually log on to the internet, Google different names for sugar. You'll get a template. You can print it off and you can become sugar savvy. So other sweeteners, so artificial sweeteners aren't necessarily better. My go-to that I recommend to clients is stevia or xylitol, XYTIOL. Xylitol is designed for diabetics. It looks like sugar, tastes like sugar, but it doesn't spike your insulin levels. So again, you can have a little look out for those too. Some of these have been linked to cancer. There's loads of research and loads of different papers out there as well. Others behave in the same way as sugar in the body. So try your natural sweeteners like your applesauce, banana or dates. And small amounts of maple syrup. They just give a subtle sweetness.
Sugar is now found in 80% of the foods we eat, but with the constant confusion over its effects on our health, and with this little person on the way, I feel like I need some definitive answers.
The point is to test out a very high sugar diet.
How are you going to do that?
If you want to match averages, 40 teaspoons of sugar a day.
40 a day. But they must be hidden sugars, found in commonly perceived healthy foods and drinks. So no soft drink, confectionery or ice cream.
People on this planet are growing sicker every day. And many scientists now believe that fructose has a role to play.
I'm eating the same amount of calories as I did before, and I'm not feeling full. These calories do dramatically different things on the human body. If I kept going for these levels, would I be knocking on the door of obesity?
Definitely. You haven't got far to go.
Any sugar, brown sugar, white sugar, fruit juice concentrate from fruit juice, equal effect on your health.
Not feeling very well at all today. My fuse is a lot shorter.
Your mental function is just unstable.
You've got the signs of a fatty liver. This is the first time I've seen that it can be developed in 2 or 3 weeks.
Whenever you walk into a supermarket, make an immediate turn for the produce aisle and avoid everything in the middle.
Sugar's not evil, but life is so much better when you get rid of it.
Okay, so just a little insight into sugar and how it can actually damage the system. So you can watch the full film of that on YouTube. But this is just, again, some ways that you can actually start to take your daily treats maybe and look at the amount of sugar that goes into it. So there's over 5 teaspoons of sugar in this Whisper bar. You can see the fats are quite high. And it's 240 calories, which we don't concern ourselves about, but it's the sugar content that we want to concern ourselves with. These breakfast bars, so there's 3 teaspoons of sugar in one of these bars. Although people will go, oh, it's only 131 calories, it's the sugar content. And these bars, so again, 3 teaspoons, and that's per bar inside. There's 2 bars in there. And just some visuals to just again show you the amount of sugar in foods. and drinks and condiments and in outlets when we go out and we decide that we want something sweet. Just think about the sugar that you're consuming. This can be quite startling for people too. You can see the natural confectionery. It's targeted at parents because it's natural or must be healthier for my kids. In a bag, there's 22 teaspoons of sugar. And, you know, if you take one jelly, you put say 5 or 10 later. How did that happen? Lucozade has 14 teaspoons in a 350 ml bottle. Okay, guys, so that was it. Quick, short, snappy. Any questions, pop them in the app and I'll be glad to answer. See you next week for your tutorial number 3.